All right, we're live.
Well, the good news is, are you ready to hit the open? Cody, don't call me Johnson.
Cody doesn't have the open.
You got it? All right, whenever you're ready, hit that open, Skip Dick.
You know it's 92 degrees.
There we go. All right, and let's go.
Live from the Lucas Oil Studios, it's Horsepower Hump Day. Because every NASCAR fan needs a push of the old bumper to get them over that hump.
Stop. Oh, my God.
Here's Kenny, Crash, Richie, and Cole. Let's get humping, boys.
Does it matter that drivers, team owners are getting restraining orders and suing each other? Does it matter to the drivers when they're on track in Bristol? We'll get to that. Coming up in the show, Tyer Reddick will be here with us. CIndric will be with us. Crash Gladys, Richard C. Suave, Cole Cusimano. We're all here for you. Thank you guys for being a part of Hump Day here in the Freak Nation. Don't forget SpeedFreaks every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Freak Radio Network. And, of course, on Racer Network on Mondays, but live on YouTube on Sundays. Follow me there when I get all freaking confused. We were talking about this. We'll get into Bristol, baby, coming up with Tyer Reddick and CIndric. But we were talking about this in the pre-show meeting, how it's just strange with all these lawsuits, with lawsuits being the headliner for NASCAR. When you got 2311 suing NASCAR countersuing 2311
And front row.
and front row's part of that. And you've got, I'm trying to get all this situated here. You've got Rick Ware Racing, who's in a lawsuit with Jimmy Johnson's group,
Legacy Motor Club.
There's a restraining order that was help me figure this out, gang. There is a restraining order filed against somebody that has a number so they could put up. None of this restraining order makes any sense. Nobody's getting their ass whooped.
Kenny, we all know what a restraining order means, not saying that, well, that kind of went wrong. But it just means that you cannot come within 6 car lengths of each other come Bristol, right? And you have to maintain your distance. That's what a restraining order is.
How does a restraining again, someone step in here. Cole, you've been the one studying this over the last 30 minutes or so. The restraining order was filed against, and why?
Yeah, the restraining order was filed against Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing.
Right.
Because I guess the Legacy Motor Club had wanted, or they were under the impression they were getting a charter in 2026, correct?
From
Yep.
Rick
Ware Racing.
Yep.
Rick Ware Racing turned around and said, no, it was 2027. And that's where this whole debacle began. But I think the restraining order label on this whole thing is what's throwing people off, because you think of restraining order, you think of like, oh, you can't be within, as you said, 6 car lengths of this person in a room.
You can't be within 100 yards of someone's house because you assaulted them one time. You can't.
Right.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
So it's like you're thinking it's like a person can't be within this parameter of the team.
So what are they restraining them from?
I think it. We were talking about this earlier. I think it just means like they're rejecting any way that they can get the charter, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you kind of got from that? Richie?
Yeah, it's more or less telling Rick Ware, hey, don't pull the rug out from under us and go and sell this to somebody else.
Right. So
which is what Legacy's entire contention is that they, like you said, the years seem to be mixed up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick Ware tried to back out of it, and Legacy's basically trying to put a complete stoppage on the entire thing until they figure out what else is all going on here. Because the original lawsuit from Legacy to Rick Ware is it's mostly redacted. So we don't know pretty much, I don't know how much of it's redacted, but more than 50% of that entire lawsuit is redacted. So we don't know a lot of what's going on here and the ins and outs and the dates that were signed and whatnot. So that's all we're getting here is everything's kind of come to a screeching halt when it comes to this entire lawsuit. But again, if you look underneath the hood, everything follow the money. That's what's going on here. And I think what Rick Ware is realizing here is that charter is going to be the most viable charter in NASCAR history for a reason. Because I was telling you guys before the show about this too, and they talked about this on the Dale Jr. download, which is that most of these charters are sold and for now, like everything's going to go to your Hendricks, your Penske's, your Joe Gibbs, your RFKs, your track houses, those are all your big teams, and all of your charters are going to be completely spoken for. So Rick Ware's is like the last charter that needs to be spoken for, and he knows he's going to make a lot of money out of this. And I think that's why he's trying to back out, is he knows he can get a better deal than the reported $45 million that this already sold for. I think that's what's going on here. Tell me if I'm wrong.
So essentially, though, to get back to the restraining order, it's just a full stop. Don't do a daggone thing until we absolutely figure this out.
Right. It's a restraint from the charter, not from like a person or an entity, you know? So
but according to Legacy, they've already signed the agreement. It's their charter coming up for next year. But
allegedly,
did I read this where Rick Ware Racing is alleging that they changed? They went in there with an eraser and went, oh, no, not 2026, 2027.
Well, no. Rick Ware was under the impression that it was 2027,
Right.
and Legacy Motor Club is saying, it's for 2026.
What's the original agreement say, Cole?
That makes no sense.
We
Like,
don't know.
shouldn't there
We
be
don't
a written legal
Yes.
document stating it is this year you get the charter? So, like, it just makes no sense all around to me. And
It
I think
doesn't.
It's extremely stupid. That's
Legal speak, stupidity.
Okay, but my residential millennials and younger are telling me that, and again, you might as well have Crash on your side because she never sides. She never goes with me. She's going to go with you, happy bastards.
Thanks.
I
Crash.
think it would affect. Okay, put it to you this way: it would affect me as a driver if my team owner was somehow what I thought was in the wrong or was getting wronged. Let's say that I am John Hunter Nemechek, and I feel that my owner, Jimmy Johnson, is getting screwed with this charter with Rick Ware Racing. The human element tells me that John Hunter Nemechek would race Cody Ware differently on the track. But you happy bastards seem to think that these guys are too damn stupid to not even worry about that. And those are my words. Those aren't yours.
I don't think they said that.
No.
Yeah, they did. They said
no,
it didn't matter to them. They said it didn't matter.
I don't think it matters at all. They're there to do a job and get the best result they can on track. And like Cody Ware didn't do anything to John Hunter Nemechek in this scenario. It's a total legal battle thing. So I don't think it has anything to do with the on track stuff.
Okay.
It's Rick versus Jimmy and the
Cole,
investors.
you park your car in my garage. Okay. One of my 300 amplifiers falls on your car. Okay. That's owned by SpeedFreaks. It falls on your car, does $6,000 worth of damage.
Okay. You
sue SpeedFreaks Limited. You sue my company, all right, for damage done that I didn't have anything to do with. You accidentally hit the shelving in there, which knocked the amp onto your car and caused $6,000 worth of damage. You start to sell SpeedFreaks. You come in and continue to do my show, I'm going to have something personal against you if you continue to come in and collect a paycheck, meaning I might try and sabotage you. I might try and make you look like an idiot on the show. I'm not trying to. I'm just, the human element is a weird freaking animal. It's like calling balls and strikes. As long as that umpire still has a heartbeat, he's going to miss the call.
Here would be my follow-up question. Which is worse, having two teams sue each other and having those drivers try to figure it out on track like you were talking about, or having an entire ownership group, including one of your drivers, being in a lawsuit against the governing body that pays your paychecks?
To me, that one's worse.
Okay, well, let me trump that even more. We talked about this too. All these charters could be shit.
Yes.
According to NASCAR, because they may just bail on the charters, as they've said, which we don't think is going to happen. They may bail on the charters depending on how the judges side with 2311 Front Row Motorsports versus NASCAR. $45 million, they worth 45 cents, dog.
Oh, that would just, all of this would be all for naught. I mean, everybody, and there would be a lot of money lost if that is what would end up being the case. It better not come to that. There's too much blood, sweat, and tears that have gone on to preserve these charters and the potential value that they would have moving forward, that if NASCAR pulled that out from underneath everybody just because they're tired of lawsuits, whoa. I don't even want to have that discussion.
The bottom line is the charter BS needs to get resolved, and it needs to get resolved soon, because I think, as Richie or Cody might have brought up earlier, like maybe that's why Pitbull left the sport. What if that's why Michael Jordan eventually leaves the sport? Do you really want Michael Jordan walking away from NASCAR after bringing in all these eyes and viewership and the new demographic to watch the sport? So it's all absolutely ridiculous and just so stupid to me.
One of the things we were talking about before the show too is we had mentioned previously, which is a lot of these big time owners haven't said a lick because because they all were forced to sign this in the middle of the night. That's all we know. And I think it was Richard Childress maybe who mentioned that, right? But outside of that, none of them had said a word about this. They have had lips sealed and they seemingly can't say a word against NASCAR in this situation. However, in the case that this case gets resolved to which NASCAR is forced to get rid of the charter system, either temporarily or long term, I'd imagine that is what gets all these owners, these mouthpieces off their couch and starts railing NASCAR, because that's the only thing they have now that's worth any money, right? Is these charters. And that's why they all signed on to it, is they believe that through the charter system, that's what they can now hand down to family members in the future. And that's going to continue to grow, like every franchise across every major league sport is continuing to grow in value. And that's what they're hoping here. So if those goes away, that's when you're going to get your Penske's, your Hendricks, your Jimmy Johnson's, whoever. They're going to start firing on all cylinders against NASCAR, right? I'd imagine.
Well, you talk about how it compares to franchises in stick and ball sports. And well, hasn't 2311 in Front Row, haven't they basically subpoenaed Formula One in the form of Liberty Media, and also subpoenaed the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NBA, I believe.
Yep.
So far, what results do we have from those subpoenas?
Absolutely zero. And you know what's bad about this is F1, Liberty Media rejected it. They said that NASCAR went overboard, quote from Jeff Gluck's article in The Athletic. They went overboard with the subpoena. They're basically saying there's no correlation to their rights and their sales and whatnot and NASCAR. And NFL did the exact same thing with something that Bob Pockers shared about half an hour ago. So it's like now you're not only pissing off people in NASCAR, but you're pissing off other forms of motorsport and stick and ball sports in general. So it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Just end it.
Making too many enemies. The ones who are pissing off the NFL, Formula One, in the form of Liberty Media right now, at least the way I'm reading it, those are the lawyers for 2311 in Front Row, right. Which those lawyers are also claiming, wait a minute, in an antitrust lawsuit, this is typical. We are able to compare values and compare revenue sharing models in order to get our point across. But Liberty Media is not playing that game, and the NFL just flat said no.
Right. They said it was a flimsy subpoena, basically. Yeah. The NFL said, which I thought was pretty aggressive. But.
What are they hiding? What are they hiding?
Oh, come
Why
on,
don't they
Richie.
want to share?
Listen,
we could find out.
We know exactly what they're hiding, and we know what the 800-pound gorilla is in motorsports, in NASCAR. Part of the reason we're still here is because of NASCAR. SpeedFreaks celebrating 25 years this year. And the popularity of NASCAR has helped us, without question. We're not just a NASCAR show. Granted, Hump Day basically is, but two-wheel, open wheel, everything with a motor.
Drag racing, boats,
it's
dirt.
SpeedFreaks. All right, my point was this. Oh, if NASCAR, man, watch myself here. I'll go back to what I've said in the past. We don't hear squat from Lisa Kennedy or Jim France, the two pillars of NASCAR ownership. All right. Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell. I'll say it again. If they had their druthers, meaning they'd rather get this thing solved, then go to court against one of the greatest athletes, one of the greatest personalities of all time, in Michael Jordan. Lisa Kennedy, Jim France. Can you blame them? Meaning, what if they're forced to open their freaking books? Just like Major League Baseball, those owners, they've stopped short of having to open up their books. National Football League, NHL. Bro, if the courts get a hold of it, if lawyers and court judges get a hold of those books, hello.
So essentially you're saying potentially the reason that the NFL said, no, we're not going to open up our revenue sharing model is because they don't want anybody else digging.
Hell no.
Okay. But Formula One, to be honest, at least from what we've been told about Formula One and their revenue sharing model, I mean, there's a reason why the backmarker teams continue to thrive and are flush with cash. There is a good revenue sharing model there. Why wouldn't they want to open up their books?
That's why there was so much resistance to adding Cadillac at first too, is the
And
teams
Andretti.
didn't want to try and slice up the pie any more than it already was. So I am surprised that there is not. Again, this is putting on my lawyer hat. I was joking with Cole before the show.
Did you stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night?
I kind of should at this point. Either that or I watched Suits. I watched Suits the other day.
Suits.
I watch enough Suits, you become a lawyer. So
Yes,
my point
yes.
being is that if Liberty Media is a publicly traded company, unlike the others, and so
Mm.
I have a feeling that 2311 in Front Row might have a chance at digging into Liberty Media's a little bit more, because a lot of their stuff is already public in a way because they have shareholders that they're accountable to.
That's valid.
Right.
Yep.
So I want to see Formula One's books, man. I want to see where their money going. I want to see how
Mhm.
much Bernie Ecclestone is still stashing away too. That guy. Do you know who Bernie Ecclestone is, Cole?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, he almost screwed up Formula One. but-
Okay.
Almost.
Well, Liberty Media took it over and it's better.
I do have an
Oh.
update here.
It is better.
Sorry.
Per
Okay.
Bob Pockris,
Okay.
seconds ago, Rick Ware Racing team spokesperson. Rick Ware Racing agreed to the TRO. It serves as a calming measure by letting Legacy know that Rick Ware Racing has no intention of transacting while we vindicate our legal rights in court.
That just made
Okay.
no sense to me. Can you
Well, Rick Ware's not gonna do
is
anything.
the TRO is the restraining order.
okay?
Yeah,
Restraining
yeah.
order. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
There you go.
Temporary restraining order.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
see what I did there?
It means they're not going to do anything in the next 10 days.
I got
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Legacy, we
figured.
hear you.
So damn silly.
We're not gonna do anything.
The fact that we're talking about this stupid lawyer crap and courtroom crap over actual racing is just
Yeah.
silly.
I'm over it. I'm so over it.
silly.
Like, can we hold off until December 1st when they go back to the courts? Enough already.
That's true. Wait, nothing's really going to happen until December 1st, right?
Exactly.
So this is just a bunch of talk anyway.
I mean, all that's in between it is like, I guess, documents and all that stuff, but leave that to the lawyers. Leave that to the people involved in the case. Like, I'm not interested in any of this stuff.
yeah, let us
honestly, at
enjoy
all,
on
at
track
all.
racing.
Exactly.
Softer tire compounds, please.
Yes.
And PJ1 at
PJ1
Bristol.
racing.
Yes.
The National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA, that is a not-for-profit
Mm.
profit organization, will never see their books. Supercross is owned by Feld Entertainment. We'll never see their books. And if you follow Supercross, you know why I brought that up, because there's a lot of discussion about supplementing costs for Supercross riders moving forward, which, again, is not going to happen, at least right now. So for us to sit back and think that we can dive in and give you some of these indications of where these numbers are with these organizations, it'd be nothing but bullshit, because we're not going to see it until it happens.
Mhm.
But I can guarantee Lisa Kennedy and Jim France, they don't want to open those freaking books to show why that yacht went from 45 feet to 32 feet in about
It
a week.
shrunk? Oh, I see now.
45-foot yacht. Come on, about 145-foot
Yeah.
yacht, right?
Yeah. 45 foot's like a sailboat.
So, yeah, I'm with you, Cole. It's like, God damn, man, having to talk about this. It kind of shows you where we're going to go to next with Bristol. We had Martinsville, which surprised a lot of us, meaning poor Jeff Gluck, man. He can't get out of the Freak Nation where we continue. When we focus on the Jeff Gluck poll for was it a good race or was it a shitbox race, when that's our go-to reference, because the majority of us are going, the hell happened at Martinsville? What the hell happened at Darlington? It's like, okay, thank you, Jeff. We have the potential for it to happen in Bristol, where we won't provide much excitement, Darlington-esque or Martinsville.
Side note, Darlington got 45.9% yes and 54.1% no, which I was a
Yeah.
little bit surprised.
I was very surprised at that
same.
too. I thought Martinsville was the least favorable of those two races, yet the poll results don't reflect that. It's weird to me.
Mhm.
All right, get the Tyer Reddick here ready to go here in just a second. But getting back to my original statement was, we're hoping where on Sunday night, Cole, Richie, Crash, yours truly are talking about an awesome race. At least give us 50 laps, 100 laps of a finale that's back and forth and provide some excitement. Because what we got in Martinsville, what we got in Darlington, didn't happen, and left a lot of us wanting more. We continue to ask drivers, what is it that you would do differently? Excuse me. We saw the different tire compounds at Phoenix, which, coming into Phoenix before they announced the tire compound, we thought, okay, here we go. It's going to be a typical Phoenix. Not going to provide any excitement, but the tire compounds did. We caught up with Tyer Reddick yesterday. We talked with him about a number of things, including Bristol and the tire compounds. Tyer Reddick, now, SpeedFreaks Pits, Lucas Oil Studios. Bristol, again, it's coming up this weekend. It's setting up to be one of those where the fans are going to go, we need more passing. We need more action on the track. We saw Martinsville. We saw Darlington. What would Tyer Reddick do different for Bristol? Would you bring in an alternate tire to Bristol?
Or short tracks in general.
Or short track in general?
It's a short, I don't know. I think unless we really step outside the box of what we know, a new tire that's a little bit softer would just be a short-term solution. I think until we get to a point where these tires wear out extensively and you really see, disparity in lap time between one car and the next, it's going to be difficult. This is year 4 of the next gen car. Some people have bounced from one team to the next and just everybody's closed in on a lot of the same stuff on their cars. And you'll see it on Saturday in qualifying. I would not be shocked if the spread from 1st to 20th is very, very close. It could, at some point here in the near future, we're going to be looking at a 10th from 1st to 20th at some of these tracks we go to. And that's just, everyone's has really gotten the most out of these cars, out of their setups. So I think to help combat that, the tire's just going to have to get to a point where it you're able to run a fast lap, but it wears out quick. And the handling and the balance of how some of these cars, the little details come to light quicker. So there's a lot to that. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But the steps Goodyear's been taking and searching and learning about how far do we need to go has all been pointing us in the right direction. These things just take time to happen. Honestly, it doesn't happen overnight.
Okay, so essentially he is agreeing that with something we've touched on the last couple of Sundays, that the parity with this now 4-year-old car has narrowed. And because of that, the only way to really put it back into the driver's hands, since everybody is on such a similar setup, is yes, with a softer tire, make it wear quicker. But right now, it's just not happening. Phoenix proved that it was good, and he agrees, yes, that's probably what we need, but it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why they aren't bringing the 2 tires to Bristol or any upcoming short tracks. I would have to imagine, I think we mentioned this on an earlier show, probably cost for Goodyear.
Yeah.
But I think that is the easiest and probably the quickest solution for improving the product for the short track package, because we've tried different things here, like since the next gen car was introduced with the underbody and such, and it just wasn't working. So we've seen the most progress made to the racing with the tires. I think it's just a cost thing at this point, but yeah, it would be great if they could find one specific tire that wore enough to where it would make a difference throughout the run.
Which is different between an asphalt track, a concrete track, and some sort of combination thereof.
Yeah, right.
Do we see changes if Bristol resembles Martinsville and Darlington?
Again, we go back to not a lot of people are thinking that Martinsville or Darlington were that bad.
I think it's possible because we saw the option tire get implemented in the middle of last season for tracks like Richmond and such. So it's not out of the question, but I feel like NASCAR kind of said after Phoenix that they're not going to do it. So maybe why would they at this point?
I haven't seen anywhere. I think that's a great point, Cole. As again, the whole purpose of this gen car is to reduce cost. I get it, but at the expense of competitive racing. Okay, we all like parity. I get it, but can't parity also breed passing and excitement on the track somewhere?
It should. That's what you want
Right.
to see from parity. Not so much the finishing results or the winners, but you want to see more of these different backmarker drivers or middle of the pack drivers up front, racing their way up front, passing these cars, making these moves.
Right.
So yeah, I agree.
Greater amount of drivers involved in lead changes.
Right.
Yeah, Denny was talking about this on his show this week, and he brought up this exact thing that Tyler brought up in his clip there that we've just been talking about. And it is this car, and this car, it's almost like this version, this Gen 7 car is like the best thing to happen in NASCAR and the worst thing to happen in NASCAR at the same time. Because Denny was explaining it from kind of the driver's point of view and the team's point of view, in that because this car is so strict and it is essentially everybody races the same style of car, that these teams can't go in and find things to try and sneak underneath the rule set like maybe they have in the past, right?
Smokey Unix style.
Yeah, Smokey Unick, or hell, even Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus,
Or Roger Penske style.
Roger Penske,
Or Rick Hendrick style.
yeah, where they get Joe Gibbs style, where they
Yeah,
can't
Joe Gibbs.
where they can't go into these cars and find these smaller margins like they used to in the past, that were able to take that Jimmy Johnson 48 car and Chad Knaus, so made them so good, and just be able to send them to the stratosphere over every other car, and that's just not happening anymore. So I wonder how much longer this Gen 7 car lasts, and this is something that Statman brought up on our show all the time. I think it would be genius if they do move on from this Gen 7 car, which again, Kenny, you mentioned that was kind of intended to try and reduce costs and try and bring the field closer together, is in the future of a Gen 8 car, instead of how they go about making the car with all these standardized parts, it's a cost cap, just like in Formula One. And the cost cap is the greatest thing to happen in Formula One, because it has brought the cars so much closer together, and your front running cars and your back marker cars have really gotten so close. Go look at any Formula One qualifying session, and you're looking at less than a second between first and 20th. It's crazy. And that was a lot of that is because of a cost cap.
But that's what Tyler was just talking about, is you're essentially going to get down to like a 10th of a second in qualifying between first and 20th. But then what do you do to separate the drivers? And that's when he said, okay, maybe a softer tire in order to put it back in the driver's hands, because handling goes away and the car becomes loose. So then it's up to the talent of the drivers. So it's I don't know. It's like it works in Formula One, but in NASCAR, it's just a different animal.
I'm so tempted to say, bring the dirt back to Bristol.
So
So
I'd be lying if
For
I
the
said I
chaos.
wasn't thinking of that. Yes,
Yeah,
for the chaos.
I'm so tempted to say
It
that.
kind of felt right on Easter weekend for some reason. Like
Did it?
it was weird
Yeah.
at the time, but now I'm like, damn, I kind of missed that.
Yeah.
Well, they changed it because number one, I was obviously on Easter, so like nobody, it was one of those races that's like everybody, it's a holiday. Why are you racing on Easter? But number two, that all the drivers complained about it.
Yeah.
Even
Right.
Christopher Bell
Mhm.
at the time when he came on our show, he was complaining about it. He said, nope, it's time to move on from Bristol.
You talk about no passing. There was no passing there either.
Yeah.
Like, so
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
And Christopher Bell is obviously well known for his dirt appreciation, and he was the one who's like, get rid of it,
mhm.
which was very surprising at the time. So maybe Tyler Reddick is the first among the drivers to start championing and adding these new sets of tires and these tire compounds more. Even though the more drivers we've talked to, we're like, we're not too into it. So I'm curious at what point does that change, and if that's going to happen this year, where more of these drivers start hopping on board with these more tire compounds.
And something we haven't talked about in a while, and NASCAR fans used to hammer races that were fuel mileage races. We don't hear that a lot.
Mhm.
You know?
I was 180 degrees from that, because it provided another element
Yep.
of the strategy of racing, just like a new tire compound. I'm all about it. If we can stagger the fuel, whatever it takes to provide some compelling watching, so Crash doesn't take a 300 lap nap like last week.
I did. Yeah.
But we don't hear people bitching about fuel mileage anymore. It's like people who bitch about quarterbacks being great game managers. Oh, he's just a game. Well, hell yeah.
You better
Let
be
me
a
manage
good
the
game
goddamn
manager.
game.
It's part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, manage the damn game, Skipjack. Just come on, man.
Well, remember also Christopher Bell, speaking of, when we talked to him maybe a month or so ago, he was in favor of these softer tires as well. He didn't like the fact that we had manufactured stages. He's like, let it play out. Let that strategy play out so that the engineers have to do their job better. The crew chiefs have to do their job better. And the drivers need to do their job better. Make it play out organically instead of, because with a different tire compound and having manufactured stages, it's like any of that strategy out the window.
Remember when
Yeah.
engines used to blow? Are you guys old enough to remember engines used to freaking blow?
Of course.
Blue
Right?
smoke.
The only thing similar that I can think of right now, and we should have asked Austin about this, where they just ran out of goddamn batteries at Martinsville?
Oh,
Battery. I don't. It's like, how do you run out of batteries?
Yes, that was.
I mean,
Martin's.
Blaney
Right.
blew 2 engines in like the span of 3 races this year. So,
Oh hell.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
yeah,
So
I got
what's
you.
happening?
That might have been that 300 lap nap that I took, man. Well, my point was, with the stages, it gives it. I know that this sounds trivial, but it gives your power plant a chance to take a breather versus 500 miles of just cooking that block.
Yeah, and I missed that element of strategy too. Like that
Yes.
was when I first started watching NASCAR, and I'll admit, like as a younger person at that time, and due to the sport, it was kind of boring seeing the long, monotonous green flag racing.
Yep.
But as I've gotten older and I got to like learn more about racing and the strategy that goes into it, I really appreciate that element of racing. That's why I liked watching IndyCar, and I appreciate that form of racing without the stage breaks. But I think in this day and age, where I've mentioned in the past, attention spans are so short that the stage racing, I think, is never going to go away at this point from NASCAR's perspective. I know the drivers might not like it, but from an entertainment perspective, it needs to stay for NASCAR.
Because you go back to 20 years ago when there was no stage racing, and again, most of you that are watching us now on YouTube, you had a runaway leader, and you would say,
You had a Jimmy Johnson.
Exactly.
okay, you had a runner. Okay, you had a runaway leader, a lap ahead, whatever it was. Just again, like, oh my god, debris on the track. What the hell is that? It's a water bottle.
That's so true.
What? Those are some goggles out there on the track.
Well, Dale Earnhart Jr. even admitted to throwing out a glove, right?
Yeah.
At one
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember he I think it was Bristol where he intentionally spun to get a caution.
Yes.
And he got penalized
Yeah.
because of it.
So be careful what you wish for. I get it. We're just hoping that Bristol is not Bristol of last year, right? Of the spring
True.
Bristol.
Well, I
The
mean,
spring
that was
Bristol was
entertaining.
fun,
That
yeah,
was
because the
entertaining.
tires
What
were
was
so
the last?
bad.
Yeah.
Which race was it? Was it the
Fall,
night
was
race
it?
that was?
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
I'm
we
getting
haven't-
getting
yeah.
confused. Sorry about that. There was one Bristol race last year. It was like, oh man, I just wasted about 4 hours of my
I mean,
life.
they've all been pretty bad, honestly. Besides the one where the tires were failing
Yeah.
Yep.
last spring. You know, it's
That's the
follow
one.
the leader, no passing. Kyle Larson leads every single lap. Denny Hamlin leads every single lap. Like it's same thing. Probably be the same thing this weekend.
Austin CIndric. We caught up with him earlier today, and I asked him the question about Bristol, man, about softer compounds, and then typical Austin, he threw it back in my lap. It's Austin CIndric. Now, SpeedFreaks Pits, Lucas Oil Studios. Trying to get a consensus on Gen Car, the tires in the Cup Series from all these drivers. You can never satisfy all the drivers. Half are always complaining, half are saying, I love it. Where does Austin stand with, and I'm prefacing this by Martinsville, Darlington, and potentially Bristol to be another lead follow, not a lot of passing, not a lot of action for people watching on TV. Where does Austin stand on trying to devise something different with this car, bring in a different tire compound to provide better racing, not just for drivers, but for the fans that are watching these races?
Yeah, I think to avoid being too political, I'm going to ask a question to answer yours. And it's funny because I had this conversation with another driver. You know, if you just take everything away from the fact that we're racing a different chassis and body and aero configuration and tires and all that, if you were to put every Cup Series driver in an equally prepared Xfinity car, what would the race look like? Because the cars are a lot closer. There's a lot less that you differentiate, you know, and it's way into execution and the human element, right? I mean, it's about total execution from pit crews. It's about total execution from the drivers and from the crew chiefs and the settings of the car. And that human element, when you are successful in this car, I mean, it's largely in part to the people involved, not just the car itself. Yeah, there's different things with the engine here and there, but and the body work, but that's what happens when everyone is in such a similar environment. You know, your ability to differentiate yourself is small, so the way you differentiate is is by refining all the small details and being absolutely stellar on execution. I mean, that's how you find consistent performance. So I think that is kind of how I filter everything, because there are some racetracks that unless I was able to be largely different in some way, they'd be really hard to pass at. Darlington is a hard track to pass on, whether if you're in Cup or Xfinity. And if you're using Xfinity compared to the last generation car, like it's a super narrow racetrack. I mean, it's hard to do. If we have two working grooves, like that's about as good as it's going to get. In Martinsville, I feel the same way. Like we had two working grooves and rubber going down on the racetrack. Like there's only so much I feel like you can ask in that aspect. So then I think it's just how do you want to consume the races, and how do race fans want to appreciate their driver's success or lack thereof. You know, is it easier to find the issue or not? And you want to know what the issue is or not? You know, if your guy isn't doing well, do you want to know it's because he's not doing well, or is it easier to blame, you know, the car or this or that? So it's an interesting conversation, but it's one that I don't spend a ton of time focusing on, even though it doesn't sound like it. But because my job is to fully maximize the opportunity, right? I love the challenge of being able to go out and work on the small details. You know, that's where I feel like I am. That is a strength of mine. So knowing that is the game. I mean, I that's why I'm here. That's why I'm studying. That's why I come to the racetrack as prepared as I do every week, because that's where it matters. And you know, those that work hard and do it week to week, that'll pay off.
So I think I hear what you're saying, Austin CIndric, that Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell are two of the most badass pilots in the 2025 Cup Series, given the fact that they've gotten multiple wins and they seem to have everything figured out.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are two exceptionally good drivers you named off. I mean, they obviously drive for the same team, and you know, I think there's a lot of things, you know, when it comes to the cars and, you know, the execution. I mean, you look at that race. I mean, that race should have either been won by probably William Byron or Ryan Blaney at the end, and it came down to a pit stop and total execution. You put yourself in position, bam, race winner. Dominate the race the week before, regardless of anything else, and bam, you're a race winner. So, you know, I think there's not just driver talent. I mean, you identify the cars by the drivers' names and the number, but the people. When I say the people, it's the total team, and the total teams matter, and those are two exceptionally strong race teams.
So in a different manner, he brought up almost exactly what Christopher Bell has told us, what Tyer Reddick told us, and you just heard at the earlier part of the show, is that, yes, bring it back to that human element, the little intricacies that individuals can make because of how similar this car is in and amongst each team. It's the cream will rise when you have those little individual differences. Now, he did not address a specific tire, but he did say it's just plain hard to pass when it comes to Martinsville 2 grooves, Darlington 2 grooves, and hello, Bristol coming up. Arguably the same, but we have PJ1 entering the equation this weekend. NASCAR is, if I'm correct in reading this, going back to not the newer resin compound they've been putting down, but PJ1, in order to hopefully make Bristol a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what I was doing today, Cole, on my way into Horsepower Hump Day?
Oh,
yes.
Let them know.
I listened to my favorite podcast, Holler Talk, everybody. I was listening to Holler Talk on my way in, and they were.
What did they tell you?
And they were explaining the reason why they're doing this is because they felt like, I can't believe this is what we're actually having to talk about, for the love of goodness. Ugh, this is so stupid, but I'll explain it anyway. Talking about freaking compounds, and nobody exactly knows what it is. Anyway, this is the
sticky stuff. We're
It's
talking about gooey, sticky
talking
stuff.
about sticky stuff. Anyway, the reason why they're putting down PJ1 instead of resin, according to them, is because the way the layout of Bristol is, it's higher banked, it's higher speeds than Nashville, where they use the resin compound, which is also also a concrete track in parts to Bristol. Is because of the banking. They felt like the PJ1 substance, which was the favorite of NASCAR many years ago. Exactly.
Kenny, stop.
What's going on?
Exactly. I know. Hey, people might be interested in this. Okay, I'm just relaying to you what the facts are. Okay, we're journalists here. Cole and I are journalists. We went to the journalism school, Cronkite. Shout out. So I got to give you the facts. Anyway, that's what they were saying, that Bristol is better fit for this PJ1 compound, which was something that they were seemingly addicted to several years ago.
Yes.
And then went away because the drivers complained about it.
Because it was too sticky. It was too tacky.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like being at Phoenix, like we've grown very accustomed to knowing what PJ1 and the resin is because they've used it so many times in the next gen era to try and promote passing there. And I think it is necessary for Bristol because the product's not been great there for the last few years, especially with this current car. And even though the racing still might not be that visually appealing, it will be a little bit more improved with that compound on the track, as we've seen in years past. It's going to help a little bit, but not like what we're all expecting or hoping for.
Here's something fun for y'all to do on Sunday while you're watching the broadcast on Fox. You can get your
FS1 because IndyCar's on Fox.
FS1, okay. FS1, and then you can get your favorite beverage, whatever that may be. It could be a Red Bull, could be a Mountain Dew, could be whatever
Beer.
you may have, could be some I don't know, vodka.
Yeah.
Whiskey.
Hey. All right.
Maybe your favorite Coors Light. I don't know, your favorite beverage. And what you will do is you will then grab your said beverage and you'll just keep it in your hand because Kevin Harvick, Mike Joy, and Clint Boyer are going to say PJ1 about 35 and a half times during that stinking race. Okay. And so you'll get hammered if you're drinking alcohol on Sunday.
Put that poll out. Put that poll out before Sunday, along with Beat the Freaks.
How many times will
Let's
they
do
say
it.
it?
The over under for
Yeah,
PJ1.
Let's do a PJ1 count. We'll do a count.
You want to
Let's do it.
monitor that?
I'll
Cole?
do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sitting around
That'll
in
be a fun little
NASCAR
bit.
pajamas. Man.
PJ1 PJs.
From the second the green flag drops, I will keep track of how many times PJ1 is said.
Oh.
Ooh.
Now, does it have to be exactly PJ1 or can they use compound? Can they use compound?
Or resin.
Resin? Sticky?
That's your call. I was going to say.
I think
just
yeah,
PJ1.
any of those three are similar.
those?
Something
Oh,
about
that
all right.
the,
makes it
the
hard.
tackiness of the track.
Or the second
right.
groove or the.
No, not second
Okay,
groove.
good. Because now we're really thinning it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I got you guys.
So, but here's the thing: that's going to be torture because I mean we brought this up on Sunday, but you're going to have to listen to those three instead of Big Glenn's going to have MRN cranked up.
True.
Big
yeah.
Glenn in our comments, and he's
Yeah.
going to have cranked up
Yep.
MRN. I actually might do the same. So that's all on you, Cole. And I will keep track of how many times MRN brings up PJ1, and I'd imagine that's going to be much lower.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I'll have my dew in hand too for that too. I'll take shots of dew every time they say it.
So when you come in on Sunday, like.
Oh, I'll be wired for sure.
PJ1.
I might float in here, honestly.
Could come in with your freaking goat T-shirt on.
Goat T-shirt.
This is somewhat
Kyle
rhetorical, but so what you're telling me, given this conversation, we'll end it here in a few minutes. We'll plug the money stop here coming up in a moment. That if everything is created equal with this Gen 7 car, every tire, every little nook and cranny inside that car is similar. Eric Jones' car is identical to Kyle Larson's car.
Mhm.
So what you're telling me, and again, I say this kind of tongue in cheek, that Kyle Larson or Eric Jones should be finishing similar to what Kyle Larson does, or what Chase Elliott does, or what Christopher Bell does.
If they were the same caliber driver.
There you go. That's the point.
What was the team element too, though?
And the team element,
pit
yes.
stops and all that
Okay.
stuff. But
Strategy.
You actually asked Eric Jones that same exact question at that Legacy luncheon and
At the-
in Daytona. The exact same question. So
Kind of why I brought it up. It's just if all things are created equal, the money that I almost said Chip Ganassi, holy smokes, that Rick Hendrick can purchase his over-the-wall gang
Mhm.
that can spend, I don't know, $500,000 on those guys versus Rick Ware Racing that may spend $100,000. He's getting championship football athletes versus guys that couldn't play football through high school.
Well, honestly, a very good comparison right now is how Kyle Larson's crew was completely changed this last weekend, except for I think one or two guys. And yeah, you're paying more money for higher quality athletes because they needed that little bit of individual difference to make them better versus the other competitors.
you saw how big of a difference it makes, though, because that's how Denny
Mhm.
Hamlin won the race off
Yep.
the
Yep.
money stop.
yeah.
Off the money stop. Not
Off
was it
the
not
money stop, yep.
9.5, 9.4 seconds. So
Mhm.
it makes it a big difference.
And frankly, let's be honest here. Again, Lucas Oil, of course, has been partners of ours for almost 25 years. And with Lucas Oil being partners with RCR, how many times has had the whole little instance with their crew and even Kyle
Yep.
speeding?
It's
It
been
really
difficult.
shot their wad, and how many race wins Kyle should have had over the last couple of years.
Well, speeding is on Kyle,
I-
but
thank you. I
it's-
understand that,
yeah,
but
I mean,
there's those little issues that we're talking about
yes,
when everything's
yes.
created equal, at least from the power plant on up,
Yep.
right?
But it is true. Like that was one of the biggest pitches with the next gen car was that it puts the race more in the driver's hands as well on track. So it's the little things that these drivers are doing well. That's why you saw Michael McDowell be so successful on the road courses compared to, I mean, he was still successful like before this current
Right.
car, but like he's that much more, I guess, out there as a contender in those races or drivers of that caliber for different style tracks. It makes a difference, you know?
Freak Nation, the go-to source for all of your betting needs is the Money Stop. It drops every Friday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube page. Official Speed Freaks, hosted by Cole Cusimano and Steven Cusimano. But I understand you're going to have a stand-in for this Friday. You have a special guest?
That's right. So there's only ever been one other co-host of this show besides Steven. He's sitting all the way to my left in Cody Johnson. And now filling in for Steven this week is going to be directly to my left, Richie,
God, I'm sorry,
my
everybody.
man.
I'm sorry.
So Steven,
Yes.
Steven, as some of you may know, he's the voice of the Yankees AA team, the Somerset Patriots. He lost his voice. I'm going to say probably for cheering too much for Aaron Judge or maybe screaming at his TV because the Yankees lost now 4 in a row. But that's why he's not going to be here. He has no voice. So Richie, thank you for filling in. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it. I'm gonna. You know what? Last week I gave everybody a little Richie's money stop
Formula One.
for the Japanese Grand Prix. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that. I'll do it on the actual money stop this week.
All right.
So stay tuned. I have the Formula One odds pulled up here, and I will give you.
Wait.
I nailed it last week.
Yeah, he did.
I told you Max Verstappen to finish top 2. I made you some money, so I have a bet circled here, and I'll give it to you on the money stop this week.
All
So
right.
F1 is racing this weekend as well.
They're back, baby, in Bahrain. Let's go.
And
Okay. Wow.
Richie?
So we have everybody. We have NHRA in Vegas. We have IndyCar Long Beach. We have F1 in Bahrain and NASCAR in Bristol. What is whoa?
Sunday's
this-
gonna be great.
and IMSA's in Long Beach too. This weekend is wow.
Richie, Cole may not be familiar with something that has transpired over your duration here in the Freak
What
Nation.
is that?
It's called the Richie Jinx.
Oh,
We need to be very careful
True.
to where people do not know where our studio is, because when you set them up to fail,
Dude, I got it right
He
last
got
week.
it last week. He nailed it.
that's not
1 out
hard.
of 106. Richie, be careful. Be careful. You might want to put a disclaimer on this show for entertainment. Just underneath Richie's Chiron is for entertainment purposes only.
Use advice at your own risk.
That's true.
Lewis Hamilton with his first win of the year. Bahrain. God.
That'd be great. You don't pick Lewis, he actually wins.
Oh.
Is there a chance in hell?
No,
Uh,
my car's not good right now.
all right.
Oh, we got the outro ready.
No, but I can have it ready.
All right, Freak Nation, some reminders. Speed Freaks, the big old fat network show, Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Freak Radio Network, our YouTube page, every freaking Facebook page that we're all part of. And then the new episode, that same show airs on the Racer Network Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Follow us on Twitter. If you want to win some General Tires, Freak Nation, follow us on Twitter. Your chance to beat the Freaks, which, guys, we need to cut that before we get the hell out of here.
Ooh, valid.
And, of course, Facebook and Instagram. We're all there for you, man. Thank you guys for being a part of this big old thing. Anything else?
We're done.
We've beat that dead horse.
Richie
PJ
Jinx.
won.
Come on, Richie. Oh, my God. Cole's having second thoughts in his face.
It's not my fault.
Steven's like, I wish I could help you.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed we get ourselves a race in Bristol. All right, man. Late.